When I initially started out filmmaking, I tend to focus on the camera and the lenses. I thought better the camera and lenses, better would be the result. But as time grew, I eventually realized that it's not the camera that you use, it's the lighting that matters. So today I'll be talking about 4 lighting techniques that will completely change the look of your image and make it look more cinematic. First technique is overhead lighting. This is a technique where you put the light source exactly above the subject. This technique is really good if you want to overly dramatize the scene with a lot of shadows in the face, in the eye sockets, and the nose. You can also combat the amount of shadows that are being casted on the face by putting either a negative fill underneath to increase the shadows for an overly dramatized look, or go back the opposite way and put a positive fill just underneath the subject, like a white blank or a whiteboard, which will bounce the amount of light and will reduce the shadows casting in the face. So in the scene, as you can see in the diagram, I used the Godox SL150 as the overhead light just above the table with the actors as the subjects. I wasn't going for a very overly dramatized look for this scene. Luckily, the poker cards acted as the positive fill and bounced light towards the subject faces and reduced the amount of shadows. But on the contrary, as you can see in this scene, I wanted to go for that overly dramatized look. So the black table that was underneath the subject came in handy, which acted as a negative fill, thereby increasing the amount of shadows casted in his face. This technique is probably your best friend in cases where you don't have any lighting technique in mind while shooting, especially for music videos. You just put the light over the subject and voila, the scene will look great. So the second technique is called Rembrandt Lighting. This is when you put the light at a 45-degree angle from the subject. This is probably the most used lighting technique, at least by me, maybe because of the convenience factor. This creates a triangular shadow on the opposite side of the face from the light, which gives a more dramatic feel to the image. As you can see in this scene, I've used a $4 cheap RGB tube light and placed it 45 degrees to the subject, and just behind that I have put a Godox LC500R set to yellow, backlighting and giving a contrast texture to the image. Similarly, in this next scene, I used the Godox TL60 as the key light, 45 degrees to the subjects set to blue, and a pink fill light to the grass behind the subject using an LC500R. The next technique is motivated lighting. This is when you replicate a light source that is supposed to be a part of the scene. For example, light coming from a street lamp, moonlight coming from a window, the interior lights of a car, etc. This type of lighting helps ground the viewers to the scene. So in this scene, I have put an LC500R on the ceiling of the car, which is replicating the interior lights of the car. Similarly, in this scene, I put a Godox SL150 just outside the windows towards the subject, replicating moonlight. I then put an LC500R set to yellow in the bathroom behind the subject, just to add some contrast to the image. The final technique that I'll be talking about is backlighting. This is when you put the subject in between the lights and the camera, essentially shooting in the shadow side of the subject. You can put the light source in the frame, or you can put it just outside the frame. In this scene, I have put 2 RGB power lights backlighting the subject with a little haze with a smoke machine. Using this technique, you can get a more grungy look to the image. Looking at another scene where I used the existing tube lights on the wall as the backlight, creating a very dramatized look, a more grungy look to the image. So as you can see how different positionings of a light can yield different and unique results in the final image. These techniques can drastically change the look of your image and make it more dramatic and more cinematic. I advise you to use these in your next projects and see how much of a difference it makes in the final look of your image. I really hope you got some value out of this video, and if you did, do like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.